whole DEI thing. You know, black people were the last level of that. It affected so many people before it got to black people.
No.
Yeah.
No. DEI programs?
Yeah.
No, come on.
Yeah.
It was there to even things out with black people. That's what the program, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Everyone, tighten your seatbelts because things are about to heat up.
The mores of the past. Because people were always just different.
Right.
You're not better, you just came later.
Yes.
You're not better than George Washington.
Yeah.
Everybody had slaves in that era, including people of color in other parts of the world.
Correct.
They did it too. They have this big argument going. They say, well, schools aren't teaching slavery. I don't know. I grew up in New Jersey.
Right.
We did in New Jersey.
Right.
Even in the 60s.
Right.
You know, it wasn't like the 1619 Project where they defined the country, but we got the message. It was wrong.
Yeah.
And it was done. We were in the North, so it was like, oh, those assholes. You know, whereas, of course, the North participated in their own way. Of course. Everybody was, you know, talk about an economy built on cheap labor.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, free labor.
Poking holes in the logic on both sides, Maher challenges Exhibit's position on DEI.
Yeah, I'm saying.
I think, even with that conversation, I think that the after effects of leading with slavery, especially in grade school and the way we're taught and the way it was defined and the narrative was changed. I think when people feel as though they've been lied to or feel as though that they, you know, have been disenfranchised or, you know, that is definitely a real feeling, you know, for a lot of people.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, when you have a conversation about slavery and the way it's introduced to us and led to us, I mean, you can see, I remember being in grade school and having no issues with people in, you know, or racial kind of bias or whatever, but as soon as those lessons started, you could kind of see the mental shift in where it was. The pecking order was introduced. And
pecking order of amongst whom?
The pecking order of the mentality of the way the white kids started looking at the black kids in the class. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa.
Looking at them with guilt, scorn, superiority.
Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But it was like,
today.
Maher questions Exhibit's take on DEI, poking holes in arguments left and right.
It's funny because today the country is so divided and so different. In blue state areas, like here, if they introduce this topic, because the way the white kids have been brought up on this subject, they're going to be like, oh my God, we're terrible people, we're oppressors. Whereas I feel this is wrong because kids, you didn't do it.
Yeah.
You had Little League, you know.
Right.
And this was many years ago. But maybe when you grew up, or still in some places in the country where this subject comes up, maybe the white kids look at the black kids with scorn, like, you know.
Yeah,
see?
I mean, but there is. What I'm saying is, whether those things, whether that feeling is from there or it goes into guilt or whether it goes into something that you could tell that this was now being introduced, right? And so now you look at the systems and the things that have been, you know, I guess what we have been dealing with, you know, like from different ranges. You know, racism does exist and all that stuff.
Things escalate quickly when he confronts the rapper's views on the reinterpretation of racial history in classrooms.
You know, from like grade school onto the introduction of it. And then when you get into being an adult and you see how the, you know, disparaging differences between being able to, you know, get a loan or not get a loan or how you identified or singled out, that's a real thing. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, especially in this climate.
It's a real thing, but some of that they can measure.
Yes.
And they do.
Yes.
And we got to go by measurements, not feelings.
Correct.
Like you wouldn't use the blood work in your body from 1990. You'd use it from this year.
Correct.
So you could look at that loan thing was certainly prevalent. Still might be, I don't know. But when you look at the numbers, you know, especially in the last 5 years, people know that there's a real spotlight on this. There has been a real effort.
Well, it's been turned up on purpose.
Of course, and it should be. But, you know, the question isn't, are there racists? Of course, there always will be, on both sides, by the way. But, of course, more historically.
The heated exchange between Bill Maher and Exhibit has everyone talking. So let's break it down. Maher dives right in, questioning Exhibit's understanding of DEI programs. Maher believes these initiatives are essentially designed to level the playing field for racial minorities and women. But Exhibit argues, quite frankly, that DEI's impact is misunderstood and, in his view, misdirected, claiming it often becomes an afterthought for Black communities. Maher pushes back, asserting that DEI programs are intended to focus on those historically marginalized, not to exclude anyone. Exhibit counters by suggesting the narrative has shifted, pointing out that white women often benefit first, leaving Black people waiting in line. It's like watching a chess master at work as Maher flips each of Exhibit's points back at him. Ever the skeptic, Maher challenges Exhibit's premise that today's merit system is drifting away from racial equity, a claim Maher clearly doesn't buy. He counters with data, showing that the numbers don't back up Exhibit's argument anymore.
Two-sided thing. It's only recently become where, yeah, you could benefit as well as suffer, because we divide everything racially.
Right.
But the question is, not whether there are still racists, of course. This word they use, systemic. How much is it in the system? Who is it holding back? And what are the real solutions?
Yeah. America got a real wake-up call where they thought DEI meant Black people. It doesn't mean... Surprise, motherfucker.
What do you mean?
No, I mean, I think it was funny, but, like, when they started attacking the whole DEI thing, Black people were the last level of that. It affected so many people before it got to Black people.
No.
Yeah.
No. DEI programs?
Yeah.
No, come on.
Yeah.
It was there to even things out with Black people. That's what the program, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
But it did,
who went first? Who jumped the line in diversity?
Well, I mean, in those settings, and what they're talking about is primarily, it was like women in the workplace.
Oh, women.
Yeah.
Well, women
before it got down to.
But see, women don't need help in the workplace.
Right.
That's how very often we're just so far locked into previous narratives that we get involved in what I keep calling zombie lies.
Maher is sharp, using facts to counter Exhibit's emotional appeals in what turns into a battle of logic versus feeling. As the debate moves forward, Maher shifts the focus to education and how past injustices, like slavery, are taught. Exhibit supports the theory that teaching slavery divides young kids racially, claiming it subconsciously sorts them by race.
What is that too?
No, it turned into that for sure. But it wasn't quite the silver bullet that they were thinking it was.
Well, they just got rid of it like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
No, they did. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, as usual in this country, Biden overdid it with DEI, and Trump is going too far in the other direction.
Right.
The pendulum never stops in the middle in this country.
But I think the uneducated people were thinking like, J-Rock from, Compton is working at NASA. You know what I'm saying? Like they just ushered him in.
Maher, clearly unconvinced, argues that these supposed racial divisions and the guilt felt by students are grossly exaggerated, claims he sees more in Exhibit's imagination than in reality. Maher insists that history education should be about providing context and knowledge, not enforcing racial hierarchies. The discussion intensifies when they tackle systemic racism. Exhibit believes societal structures continue to create disparities for Black Americans, from job access to basic living conditions. Maher doesn't deny systemic racism exists, but he questions how significant it still is today from a policy standpoint. He acknowledges the progress made over time while emphasizing that not every disparity is a result of systemic failure. The conversation shifts when Maher challenges the idea of a racial pecking order, which Exhibit believes schools subtly reinforced during slavery lessons. Maher disagrees, calling such claims exaggerated and rooted in outdated zombie lies. He argues that society has evolved and clinging to old narratives distorts reality. He also calls out stereotypes like women need help at work as obsolete, noting women's success in fields like education and business. Exhibit, though uneasy, shares personal experiences of racial bias, but Maher insists policy must be based on data, not emotion. The debate then touches on the politicization of DEI. Maher criticizes both Biden and Trump for pushing extremes, advocating for balance instead. Exhibit agrees DEI often lacks proper execution. Maher cautions against labeling it a failure, urging honest engagement from all sides. Despite their differences, both agree that open dialogue can lead to meaningful change. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you don't want to miss out on the hottest celebrity news, make sure to subscribe to Daily Finder.